All right, everybody, welcome to OTC, where the show is on the contrary, where we're going to give you our opinion, whether you like it or not. My name is St. James.
And I'm Chris Naugle. You're probably not going to like the opinion of this guy.
No. Well, guess what? If you're one of my people, you're not going to like the opinion of this guy either. But the thing is that through us talking about these particular topics, maybe we'll be able to expand our particular perspectives. And in the meantime, we're going to learn a little bit more about how we can take control of our money, regardless of what side of the aisle, the fence, or the income bracket we're on.
Contrary.
So, Chris, we were talking a little something off camera, and we're talking about the witch hunt in America right now.
There's witches?
Yes, there are witches.
Real?
Yes, and they have little mustaches like this. They look like Charlie Chaplin, and they like to high five the wrong way.
Oh,
Those
that.
they're going that way. Yes.
Yeah, that one.
So, and that's what I'm thinking about is like right now in America, we're always like, okay, is this one of them? Is this guy one of them? And you may remember back in the day, like the 60s, maybe it was the 70s, it was the big communist hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a commie? And now I'm seeing that kind of inkling now in America. Now, this level of tribalism, it isn't cool whatsoever. What types of tribalism do you see a lot of?
Definitely the left and the right side.
Yes.
I see it every single day, see it everywhere I go. You know, it's kind of like, oh, you know, you get the colored hair, you know, with the younger folks, oh, they must be liberal, voted Biden, you know, and then it's just all those little things, you know, that happened during the last administration. We take all of that, we say that's a liberal.
Right.
You know, so we've just made up this witch hunt, and I see it all the time.
Yes, and I mean, just because you look one way or just because you speak one way, or even if you come from a certain financial background, it doesn't mean that you are one or the other. And also, here's something to think about. Whenever I talk to people, I ask them a very simple question. Whether they're left or right, are they American? Whether they are American, are they human? And that's one of the most key things, but unfortunately, that doesn't drive views. That doesn't really make headlines. And I think that's something that gets very, very overlooked because a lot of people just want to stay within their own tribe because it's a safe space. It's like, oh, I feel safe. I can say things I can say over here, but I can't say them things over here. And now I don't have to worry about that judgment. So I will say all the things that people need to hear to say, whether people like it or not. I know you've been.
I don't really care what people think. I'm not trying to make new friends.
No new friends. Hashtag no new friends.
No new friends.
No new friends. I definitely get that right there. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about a few key things today. Obviously, you've been keeping up a lot with the news. And we've got Donald Trump and his gold pass, the gold card. You've heard about that?
I haven't really studied it. I think it's stupid.
No problem. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about afterpay services. Basically, it is kind of like a credit card. But
No, it's just another way to keep Americans in debt and controlled.
Okay. And also, one thing that a lot of people are going to feel very frustrated about is why do we need a recession?
Oh.
All right. So before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. If you could go ahead and give us a like, it's absolutely free. Or what else can they do?
They could give us a subscribe to this channel for sure.
All right. Our goal, guys, by summertime 2025, we're looking to be at over 70,000 subscribers, but that only happens through your actions. Thank you so much for hitting that.
He thinks way too small. We're going to be like millions of subscribers. What are you talking about, 70?
Thanks so much, guys. All right. And before we get started, we definitely want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, BYOB, the Money School. It's the organization that helps you learn how to take back control of your money. What does taking back control of your money actually mean?
Yeah, it just basically means that you no longer rely on the system. You no longer rely on banks. And I mean, your whole life you've been taught to give up control of your money to the banks. It's time we take back control of that money and become the bank so that we control and own everything we do.
Yeah, a lot of people, they talk about, I work this many hours, I do this much overtime. It is extremely hard to become wealthy in America by working a 9 to 5.
You can't.
No. Even those high level
You can't save your way to wealth either.
Hell no. Hell no. And
that's what we're taught to do.
Exactly.
Go to work extra, put in the overtime, max out that 401k so that someday you retire. Tell me this, James. How many people that you know can tell you what retirement looks for them? Like, what does it look like? Like, how much money is that per month?
Yeah.
At the time when you retire.
Right.
What does your perfect day look like the day you retire? Can anyone tell us that?
No.
No, they just say, oh, I just want to retire. Well, what does that mean? Great, you want to retire. When? Well, I'm thinking around 65. Why wait so long? Well, it's going to take me that long. Says who? Says the system.
Right.
Follow what I'm saying? Like, we have literally been controlled. We've been taught the things we've been taught, or the information we should have been taught has been withheld, so that we've stayed on this path so that we can be controlled just like that. And that's exactly all it is.
And how many times during your time as a financial advisor, did you see people were actually scared to talk about their finances?
Oh, all the time. People don't want to talk about money. It's almost like a foreign thing. I mean, how many times when you're sitting at the dinner table do you bring up talking about money? My family's very different. Well, I should say my immediate family.
I was about to say.
Like, if I go to like a Christmas party with my wife's family, like, money's never brought up. I try to bring it up and it's just suppressed. It's just like, who brought the witch here?
But the thing is, though, think about how much cohesive some of our families could be, how much more well to put together some of our marriages could be if we were just open and honest about these things. Because what is the statistic? Maybe, Jordan, you can tell us about this. What is the statistic of marriages that end up in divorce over finances?
Well, money is the number one cause of divorce.
God, dog, really? That's really sobering. So what if you I was actually listening to John Hope Bryant, and he says, if you meet somebody that you are very, very interested in at the club, at the bar, online, whatever, your first few words should be,
show me your bank account.
We're pretty close. Yes.
No, that's not it.
At least show me your credit score.
I get back in this routine of like what kids do nowadays when I go on dates.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I thought they just said, hey, what's your bank account look like? How much money you got invested? Like, what's your income? Where do you work? What do you do?
Oh my gosh. I could see you were a very big hit. You were a really big hit with the snow bunnies. I could definitely tell.
Oh, I never asked any of those questions.
I got you right there. All right, guys. So if once you guys are looking to get started with your infinite banking journey and working with BYOB Money School, make sure you click the link in the description notes. We're going to be able to get you started right away.
That may be the only thing this entire show that we agree with.
That's true. All right, so let's start it off with this. When I tell you buy now, pay later, what comes to mind?
Trapped.
Okay, why is that?
Because that's what it is. You're able to buy things you can't afford now that you probably don't need now, and you're going to be trapped paying for them later. And what does later mean? Are you going to have enough money to pay for them later? It's basically stacking of debt, and that's what the whole system seems to be. All this stuff that you were talking about, all these buy now, pay later, it never ends well for people. Usually it ends in them losing what they had, or literally having to file for bankruptcy.
So one of the most popular financing apps that's coming out right now, types of fintech, I should say, they're services like Affirm, PayPal, Pay Later, which it is. You also have, let's see, here we have Klarna, which is based out of Europe, and they are growing at an exponential pace. What's actually happening is, let's say you go to a travel site. What you could do is you could pay for your entire vacation on a, purchase now and pay later type of process, where your payments are going to be automatically removed from your bank account.
I would assume they include interest as well.
And that is the caveat, because a lot of people don't realize that these interest rates on some of these particular financing sites are over 29%.
It can't be, can they? Isn't that usury?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was usury, but when I was doing the notes, and of course, Jordan and all the back office team, you guys can pull that up, but you will see that they are approaching usury rates. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why is it that somebody would want to use these?
I don't know. Like, if you knew it was going to be 29%, like, why the heck would you ever do that? You'll be paying for it not just for the term of time, but for the rest of your life.
I think that it's good for people who, are responsible, who want to be responsible, and also for people who have screwed up credit that still want to be able to enjoy some semblance of life. I think that even though, yes, there is interest on it, if I put it on a credit card, I'd still have to pay that interest. If I saved it up, then and then I spend the whole thing, I lose that security of having my savings. So I feel that if it's purchased for things that are appropriate for them, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that it's when that debt snowballs out of control and they just think that—
But it will. Look at credit cards right now. They have snowballed out of control. We have breached $1 trillion in credit card debt. And it's pretty much, I'm not going to say we can't pay it off, but most families are not going to pay off their credit card debt.
I understand that.
They're not taught how to. It's not their fault. They're just not shown how to.
But here's the thing. I mean, these particular payment companies, they're not really allowing you to go over a certain threshold. And some of the rates are going to be reasonable. Some of them are going to be at 5%, but it's not necessarily credit-based. And the thing is, one thing that really pisses me off is that when you have a credit card and you have bad credit, now you are at such a unleveraged position that you actually have to pay more for the same purchases.
I've seen it.
Than if someone who has an 800 credit score makes 300,000. We can say 300,000 in America is a good amount for a single household, a whole household, and they're going to be able to be at 5%. So this group over here, they're not financially enslaved, indebted, whereas the other people who are just trying to enjoy their lives, they're just like, too bad. We see you as a bigger risk. Now, what parallels have we seen something like this in the past?
Well, there's definitely been those parallels. I mean, if you go back to the 50s, none of this stuff existed.
Okay.
You literally couldn't just go out and buy a house with 5% down, or God forbid, 3.5% down.
Mm-hmm.
You needed, I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot.
Yes.
So you had to save up. So it actually got Americans in the mode of you have to save money. So they lived not past their means, not this false reality. They lived within the reality of here's what you can afford. Now, did they live the lives that we're able to today? No. Is that the American dream, to be in debt? I don't think so, but that's literally where we're at. We live in almost the Matrix. It's a false reality. When you're driving around and you see people, you might think people have a lot of money because the way they dress, the fancy things they have, the fancy car they have, but they are I know this as an advisor, and with what I do today, I see this firsthand. Those people, for the majority of them, they're buried in debt. There is no balance anymore. So all the stuff we were talking about, the witch hunting and the left and the right, throughout history, it's always been a balancing act.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you're never going to be in balance. You will never have it. It's always going to be heavy one side or heavy the other. So it's a counterbalancing problem. We're never going to get that equilibrium. So we always got to figure out, how do we counterbalance this thing in our own lives with the time we spend? Sometimes you're working way too much, doing too much. Then sometimes you're taking too much time off, spending too much time with the family. It's a counterbalance. That's what this whole thing's about.
Yeah. And one thing I think we have to have the perspective of when we look at the good old times, so to speak, back in the 60s, 50s, and obviously the 60s was a pretty rough time, but financially, the median household...
People made more back then?
Yeah, well, think of it this way. We had a limited financial system. Money was an actual, it was real money. It wasn't currency where they could just print more. It was tied to a gold standard. A lot of people do know that. A lot of people don't know that. But also, consider this as well, is that the median household price was 2x the median household income at that time. Do you know what that number is today?
I don't.
It is 6x. It is 6 times the median average household income. So people need to make more, be able to save a lot more. But if you're already in a system that is holding you back from where it keeps moving the goal line because BlackRock is buying up all these properties, because private investor groups are buying up all these homes, then what happens is you're feeling is, especially with the pinch with Generation Z and Generation Alpha going into, is that maybe household ownership is never going to happen. And maybe I just have to rent for the rest of my life. And I think that's extremely unfair.
I do too.
But
is the answer to that the counterbalance where we swing so far to one side where people don't have to work, they don't have to maintain good credit, they can just be completely irresponsible when it comes to how they live their life, how they save, what money they have, but yet the government steps in and just says, hey, we feel bad, you should have home ownership, that's the American dream, we're going to give you an FHA mortgage and you're not going to have to really put any money down, your credit score isn't going to be important, and we know you're probably going to maybe default, but that's okay. Is that really the answer?
I think Americans, to a degree, deserve a shot. Is it every single American? No. Do some deserve a shot? And is that number arbitrary? Absolutely. But I do believe that some Americans deserve.
So how do we decide who deserves a shot and who doesn't?
I think it's how much work you're willing to put in.
Okay.
For people who are looking for the DACA loans, I believe they're called, and please clean that up for me. It's where you have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops in order to be able to get a no money down loan. And by people using these systems, they are able to transform themselves out of generational poverty or generational non-home ownership into a particular period of home ownership. And when we have more home ownership, neighborhoods improve. People say, well, why is this neighborhood so bad? Why don't people take care of this? Well, when it's not your house, you don't care traditionally. Like that's historically been shown. But yes, I'm sorry, I have to agree with you, Chris. Not everybody is going to be able to clear that hurdle, unfortunately.
And I don't think they should be able to.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So let's talk about who also deserves to be here in this neighborhood. Your guy, Donnie J. Trump, is making what's known as the gold card. Now, do you understand? Could you tell me what the gold card is?
I probably could not. I mean, basically, here would be my definition.
Right.
The gold card is this card that an immigrant, or let's just say somebody from Mexico that wants to live in the United States, can pay millions of dollars, $5 million of it?
$5
million, get this gold card, and then they can come here.
Yep. Pay to play.
So if you're one of the big wigs at the cartel, you just buy the gold card, and now all of a sudden you're here. So I'm just sorry, but who can afford $5 million?
Well, the thing is, remember, Mexico is evolving to becoming a middle-class nation. I spent some time there. I know that you spent some time there. And yes, is there a big criminal influence in certain parts?
It's just the government is corrupt. That's the biggest problem over there.
I haven't explored that.
A lot of corruption.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of corruption in America.
Good point made.
So if that ain't the kettle calling the dang on pot black, I don't know what is. We do have corruption, and a huge portion of the American economy, unfortunately, is based off of illegal types of businesses. Mm-hmm. We don't like to admit it. It is one of America's biggest dirty secrets, but it's a dirty secret that everybody knows as well. We just kind of, hey, let me put that sumbitch over there real quick. So we have somebody who could just be a business owner who maybe has had land in their family for generation after generation after generation, says, you know what, I'm going to sell it. And then what I'm going to do is take this $5 million or $6 million, buy my gold card, and then I can live life. Maybe they're a professional athlete.
Is there background checks on the gold card?
I would presume so.
I would hope so.
But I don't have a lot of faith in DJT. So I have a feeling that they're willing to look a lot of other ways for that particular type of thing. Hey, you got $5 million.
I don't know enough to say yes or no on that one, but I would hate to think that that's the route.
But let me take you even a step further then. Do you like the tax state right now in America right now?
Meaning what do you mean the tax?
Do you like how much Americans have to pay in taxes?
I don't like how we're taxed.
Okay.
We're at the lowest tax rate outside prior to 1913 when the tax code was put in place. We're still at the lowest tax rates we've been in my entire life and in many generations. Mm-hmm. But I don't like how we're taxed.
Okay.
So it's not a problem with taxes. It's how much we're taxed on the things that we're taxed. We're taxed on buying goods and services, sales tax.
That's right.
Then when we sell them, we're taxed. Then when we buy them again, we're taxed. Then when we sell it, you're taxed. I don't like that. We're taxed on our income, that we work for.
Right.
We're also taxed when we die. Death tax, estate tax. There's taxes on everything. So I don't like how we're taxed. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with taxes. I just don't like how they administer them.
I definitely get that. And obviously, I think both sides agree that no matter what, we're never going to cohesively agree on where our tax money goes. Whether it be going to defense, whether it be going to kids' books down in South America, or the U.S. Department of Age.
Transgender plays over in what? Iraq?
It was something like that. And that's a whole thing right there. But the premise, the idea though.
That's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down. We'll run out of time quick.
Exactly. We'll have to be stopping to fact check every 5 minutes and it'll be absolute chaos. But we have to consider something here. If I'm somebody who's financially savvy, why the frig would I want to come to America? Why would I want to be a citizen? I would not. I'd want to go to Monaco. Do you know why there are so many F1 drivers that live in Monaco?
They don't want to pay tax?
They don't have to pay any taxes. So Richard Hamilton and all these other legendary race car drivers, F1 drivers, all live in Monaco. You live right on the water. You have your community around you. And you have some of the most...
It looks pretty badass.
And you have great coffee there.
Oh, yeah, the coffee does look good.
I could move to Dubai.
And is everybody in Monaco beautiful? Or is that just
It depends if you're visiting, no. If I'm visiting, then it kind of balances out. So the thing is that I would want to go to Monaco. I'd want to go to Dubai. I'd want to go to places or the UAE where I have a good favorable tax rate for both myself and my corporation. So why the frick would I want to come to the United States? I mean, you got like a kind of middle ground with Puerto Rico where you have to spend, how long does Troy have to stay there? Like 185 days?
I can't remember the exact days. It's kind of like Florida, I think, something like 6 months or something.
We'll say it's arguably about 6 months, but we got to take it a step further. You go to Puerto Rico, number one, everything in Puerto Rico costs more. As a U.S. protector, did you know that you cannot ship something directly to Puerto Rico from another country? It has to go through the United States, then it goes to Puerto Rico. So somebody is taking their tax money, somebody is taking a little bit of import money before it gets to Puerto Rico, which is one of the reasons why Puerto Rico's had such a hard time being able to flourish as an island country, as a protector. It's just so expensive. And the people are like, now we're getting priced out because people with higher levels of income are being here. Meanwhile, this was originally our land. So it's very frustrating. So getting back to the point, living in some of these other countries, you're good. You can travel the world. You can do whatever you got to do. Whereas in America, you still have to pay your tax. If I'm an American who lives in another country, I still have to pay so many taxes back to America, even though I've said, you know what, I'm good, even though I want to maintain my U.S. citizenship. So
I get it, but it still is, no matter what, the United States of America is the land of the free and definitely the land of opportunity. Mexico doesn't have opportunity like the U.S. does.
How so?
No, they just don't. Like the United States of America is still the land of opportunity.
The United States of America,
Especially for free thinkers. Why is it that you look at the companies here, how many of them are run by immigrants that immigrated here?
Okay.
That's because they're allowed to do that here. In their country, clearly, they weren't allowed to be free thinkers. They weren't allowed to create, and they didn't have the opportunities like they have here.
I think the gold card is going to flop. We've already had immigration programs that have helped people out. Yes, America does have a great level of opportunity. I just know that just because you're American doesn't mean that you can't make it anywhere else. Toyota blew up in Japan, figuratively and literally. It made a great presence, and it's one of the cornerstones of the world's economy. Volkswagen out of Germany is a great company, and despite their origins, it is still one of the largest manufacturers of vehicles in the world.
True.
But I also know that you need to have access to big markets in order to make things happen. And if your economy is just too small, if you don't have people who think progressively enough around you, well, then unfortunately, your dreams may just die a very slow death.
Hence why people want to be in the U.S. You just summed up the U.S. You just summed up why people would want to be here. Like, why is it that people would want to buy a $5 million gold card to come to the U.S.? Well, let's say their business is going to be heavily hurt by the tariffs. That gold card gives them a free ticket over here to open up shop and do their business on U.S. soil, where they want to sell their goods and services anyway. But prior to this point, it was cheaper for them to just do it overseas or in Mexico. So there was no incentive for them to do this. Now that provides the incentive and gives them that hall pass. I don't know. I don't
what you're
really
saying makes sense.
I don't really have a dog in the fight on this gold card thing. I haven't studied. I really don't care about it.
I don't like it.
But it's just another thing. I mean, you know what's tough? Right now, there's so much stuff coming at us.
Yes.
It's hard to decide what's real and what's not. I mean, literally like tariffs. Is it just a bargaining chip or is it actually going to happen?
Well, let's
that's
talk
what
about
Wall
that.
Street's been trying to figure out. Wall Street, the reason the markets have been going up is because literally the Wall Street is literally calling the bluff on Donald Trump. Like when he said, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, but then they had meetings, and then all of a sudden he's like, all right, we're going to push that 30 days. The TikTok thing, we haven't heard anything about that. Is TikTok closing down? Is it getting sold? Like, so you can't just call bluff because Wall Street smells that shit. But now he says, I'm definitely moving forward with this. So when he does, mark my words, you're already seeing the markets,
Yeah, they've been.
Yeah, you're seeing the markets feel that because the markets are not strong right now. Like everybody thinks the markets are so good. No, they're not. They're just propped up.
Okay.
The markets are not fundamentally in a good place.
So explain how the markets, I do want to definitely talk about this because a lot of people don't understand, how people are saying the markets are propped up and what that could mean moving forward. And let's even tie that to something else. Why do we actually may need a recession?
All right, so markets are propped up because there's a lot of FOMO out there. I mean, right now it's dumb money moving into the market. I mean, there's been lots of things that have said this. I mean, Warren Buffett's moving out of the market. I can't remember the guy's name, another billionaire is, just went public. I'm selling, I'm getting out while the getting's good. There's huge smart money moving out of the market. So what money is moving into the market? Dumb money. Okay, and what is dumb money? I hate to say it. 401k money, retail investor money, people that are just chasing the winners. But eventually the winners are going to be the losers.
But Chris, the thing is, every level from Kramer to...
Kramer's a damn idiot.
Okay, well, all the people who have some level of financial influence at a mass scale, the smart people, quote unquote, that are safe to be able to talk about finances in America, all say, get yourself a SPY. A SPY is an ETF, guys. That's, bucket of stocks. We talked about S&P 500. Get into a Vanguard fund or something like that and just let your money ride because we don't have pensions in the first place.
All right, listen. So we're talking about two totally different things. First off, any of you that want to invest money, dollar cost averaging is the way. So the argument I make, and a lot of my videos are about take your winnings off the table because right now what's happening is, people have been putting money into the market. They've been investing and investing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Keep dollar cost averaging in, but no one to hold them and no one to fold them because as you dollar cost average, you basically start building a portfolio. You start having more and more money invested. And with the concentration of the S&P 500 into about 8 to 10 stocks, then some retail investors, dumb money, no disrespect, but that's what they call it on the street. That's what they call it in back offices on the street too. That money is all getting concentrated because people will go out and they'll buy Apple, they'll buy Google, they'll buy Nvidia, they'll buy
Tesla, all the FANGs,
all the S&P 500 stocks that are running stuff. But then they'll own SPY, they'll own the S&P 500. Your concentration is so heavy in those stocks that when it does let go, which it will, they're going to get slaughtered. The same exact thing happened in 1929, and it was the dumb money that did it. It wasn't smart money. Like I tell the story of Kennedy and the shoe shine boy. Like that was smart money. Today, Warren Buffett, probably the smartest money. How much cash is he sitting on right now?
Some 3 billion.
325 billion. It's more than that now. Just saying, like, why is it so hard for the average person to just open their eyes and see what's going on?
I think
it's greed and it's FOMO.
I think they're trying to do what they think the smart people are doing.
I would agree, but why are they doing the complete opposite? And why is it that Kramer's sitting there ringing his stupid bell and all these stupid noisemakers? Stop watching Kramer. I bet you,
Follow Dave
I know there's these statistics, and I don't have them with me, but I'd love to find them. Go through and look at Kramer's history of what he has recommended. And let's see how many of those recommendations have panned out and how many of them haven't. But then let's wait until the whole thing falls out, and then what's Kramer going to be saying? Kramer just chases whatever's hot to talk about. Kramer is not giving good advice. He's giving bad advice, but it's advice that people want to hear about today. He's in showbiz.
So
do you really think he invests the same way he says to invest?
No.
He probably does the complete opposite. I don't know that to be fact.
And there's actually an inverted fund that is anti-Kramer. So everything that he mentions, you could buy this particular stock or whatever it is.
There's a tracker for Nancy Pelosi, but I would say if you want to make a lot of money, just invest in what Nancy Pelosi.
Well, here's the thing:
the greatest stock trader of all time.
By an order of magnitude, but who's the number two?
Not by an order of magnitude, by an order of insider trading.
Oh yes. But I mean,
but it's not illegal for her to do that.
A lot of these politicians are doing. Everybody wants to say Pelosi.
I get it.
But there's people on both sides. There's people on both sides. Good people on both sides. Whatever that means. Chris. So I need you to talk to me. Why do we need a recession then?
Because the whole system needs a reset. In recessions, we are in the largest artificial bubble of all time. And right now, that bubble just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You got the Fed printing, you got all these things going on that just keeps blowing this bubble up. And it should have went a long time ago. If we just followed normal cyclical cycles, if people that run the country or people in the Fed studied Austrian economics, they'd understand why we have a problem. A recession is a cleansing. I don't want a recession. If you think for a second I want to go through a recession, man, my business will get hurt. My personal finances, I won't get hurt in the markets, but it's still not going to be fun.
Right.
But it is necessary because we need to cleanse. The tide needs to go out and show all the shit that has been buried under this high tide for so long. It is toxic right now. And a recession is a natural cleansing.
I got you. One of the things that is scary about a recession is you don't know how long it's going to last. You don't know who it's going to affect.
But the longer you don't let it happen, the longer the recession more than likely will last. Remember the Depression?
No, not at all.
I know, because you weren't alive. No one watching this remembers the Depression because you weren't alive. But have you studied the Depression? Have you understood the Roaring '20s and what that was like here in the U.S.?
Yes, yes.
Kind of a lot like right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, debt induced. That was when all the debts were coming out. Margin was how people bought stocks. Right. Debt. And then all of a sudden, it popped. 1929. How long did the Great Depression last?
I think it ended in 1940.
Yeah, 1940s.
That's over 10 years.
A long time. Now, let's kind of go through. All the other recessions have been shorter and shorter, right?
Right.
But the dot-com crash, how long did that take?
That was like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it was 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Technically, and if you look at the actual numbers, it's less, but it was effectively 3 years. I lived through that.
Right.
The Great Recession was how long?
3 years.
It was kind of quick. It was like 2 years.
Right.
But the effect, the lagging effect because of the drawdown on people's portfolios took a decade.
And in the housing market, yes, especially. Like it took a while for housing values to get back. Like in some parts of Buffalo, you could buy a house for $10,000.
I remember those days, yeah.
I wish I bought more.
I was buying them. I just wasn't able to keep them. That's the beauty.
Yeah, that's the down part about it. So the recession, a lot of people are complaining about how expensive things are right now. But the thing is, you can't snap your fingers and make food prices go down like that. You can't make...
You need deflationary
housing
period of time, which is going to come with a recession.
If somebody has a HELOC, let's just say, on their home, and they have, let's say, $50,000 that they have just in an outstanding HELOC, what happens when their house price devalues?
Well, the bank will probably cut their HELOC or freeze it. It's happened in the past. That's what it'll happen again.
Exactly.
Don't think that your HELOC, the money you have, on your house, the equity in your house is forever. It's not. And banks will cut them and freeze them, and they've done it in the past, and they'll do it again.
All right. Well, I as much as I really appreciate talking to you about home values and why we need a recession and all that pullback, I'm still going to go shopping. And when I go shopping, I want to get a really good headset. As a matter of fact, right here. Whoa. Nice. Exa. Hopefully it's not upside down. Today's show is brought to you by Exa. Exa is one of the premier headset, all types of sets where you get crystal clear sound. I use a lot of headsets when I go to the gym. Chris, I know you don't like to work out too much, but what's really cool about headset is that it does provide you with crystal clear sound, and you can use it while you're driving, while you're working out.
Yeah, and cancels out all the noise. So like if you're at the gym and people are racking, the things, you're not going to hear that. And you could just be having a crystal clear conversation with somebody and you don't hear anything and this thing doesn't go in your ear. You know what the earbuds, like the Apple ones, I use those all the time. Like you got to put that thing in your ear. These you don't. These just go right against your ear, and then you can hear everything. But if I can get it on right, so you just do this.
Okay.
And that's it. Now all of a sudden,
works.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden, I can be talking to somebody, and I can use either one. Okay, I can be talking to somebody, but I'm not going to have to worry about any background sound or anything else. They developed them for like truck drivers.
Yes.
But then it's been used for just about everything else. These things are awesome. I love
so whether or not, like, especially if you're like a streamer, streamers use headsets pretty much indoors all the time. One of my friends is one of the top streamer on Twitch for Rivals. And I'm looking at her headset and I'm just like, you need something that's much more aesthetically pleasing. So whether you're a trucker, a streamer, a complete gym rat, make sure you grab your Exa headphones because...
Breaker, 1, 2, yep. Breaker.
Thank you, Exa. All right, guys, and now it is time for our next segment, which is It Came from the Comment Section. During the course of the show, obviously, we encourage you guys to comment along the different thoughts, ideas, and criticisms that you have about the different topics that we discuss. What is going to happen is we are going to go over some of these comments. And of course, if your comment is selected, we have different gifts for you. Chris has a number of different books. And of course, you get my eternal gratitude. So here's a first clip here, Chris, and maybe you can kind of voice off about this. It was my understanding that the yield curve has to invert for 3 straight months before it indicates a recession. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't know if that's a hard stat, but I think you can't just have the yield curve invert and then uninvert and like that's a definitive thing. It has to stay inverted for a while, but it has been, the yield curve inverted. I don't remember when I first did a video on that, but it inverted. It stayed inverted for a long time. And then just last year, late last year, it reverted. So it came out of the inversion, which is a telltale sign we got a recession. Now, the weirdest thing that happened is the yield curve is inverted again. I don't even know what to make of it. Yeah. So and they don't even probably know what that means, but a yield curve inversion is where you're paid more for holding a short term, like a 2-year treasury bond, than you're paid more for that than you are for a 10-year. Like if I asked you to lend me money for 2 years, and I said, I'll give you 5%, but then I said, hey, I'd also like a loan for 10 years, but I'm going to pay you 3%. Would you be okay with that?
I would just keep doing the 5-year shorter term and just keep riding that out.
Yeah, right? Because
I
you want to put your money out for 10 years at a lower interest rate than what you're getting on 2. So it doesn't make sense. But that's what the inverted yield curve is. And it's a telltale sign that a recession is coming. Now, when it reverts, so it goes back to normal, that's that time where a recession is soon. But now it's re-inverted. I don't even know what to really fully make of it. But I guess with this one, 3 straight months, I'm not sure. I guess I'll go with it.
Here's the thing. With a recession, even though we do need certain metrics to kind of establish a baseline,
And there's lots of them.
all I go with is what is consumer sentiment? Do we feel, are we in a recession? Are we feeling the pinch financially, economically, housing-wise, pricing index-wise in relation to how much we make as a people? If too much money is being lost in a certain market and our finances are stagnated, recession. Yep, will people start to realize Jerome Powell should be dovish, I think that's dovish, about slashing rates. It's too late now. The recession is here. Now we get to see what loose monetary and fiscal policy causes.
I agree. I think the Fed's in a tough place right now.
Yeah.
The Fed, is trying to soft land this thing, but now with the tariffs and everything else, they just don't know what way to go. Now, inflation, just the most recent reports, inflation is coming back down, but at the same time, consumer spending and consumer sentiment is spiking. Or going down. Spiking, sorry, is going down. And then not only that, saving rates are going up. So you've got people saving more money. That is them saying, oh, hell no, something bad's coming. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to stop spending, and I'm going to start saving. And on top of all of that, the Fed doesn't know what to do. They're holding rates, but they probably should have been continuing to drop rates, stimulating the economy, because I think we're going to crash land.
I think that we are going to crash land.
But you're going to blame that on Donald Trump.
Yes.
Nothing to do with the prior administration and what they did.
Yes, them too. Yes, them too. I mean, we already know that America recovered the most and the quickest from COVID out of any other G1 nation out there. A lot of people don't like to admit it. That's okay. And I guess the idea that is in my gut is that, we could write it out and we would be okay. And I'm sure a lot of other people feel that way as well. If you are into every single technical aspect, I'm sure there are problems that are within it, inherently with that mind state. But I don't see us being able to save more money as being necessarily a bad thing if there is
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Never said that was a bad thing.
Right.
It's just a sign.
Yeah, and if like you said, like Warren Buffett is hoarding his cash right now. Let's say Dalio and all these other people, these big funds are hoarding cash. Why shouldn't the everyday consumer do that as well? Let the crash happen, and then that way now to really spur spending, that's when you drop. That's when you drop links.
Jerome Powell and the Fed are going to be able to save this one because, like, with the whole tariff thing, first it was like, is Donald Trump just using this as a weapon to try to get what he wants, or is he actually going to do it? So what you're now seeing is you're seeing the deficit, the trade deficit spike. It's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's up like 25% over December, which is because everybody's rushing out buying as much stuff as they can from overseas before these tariffs go in place, which is spiking the deficit. And that is definitely, listen.
And it was the holiday season.
And yeah, I guess you could count that in. It was the holiday season, but you're definitely seeing a reaction to people saying, hey, this isn't a bluff. These tariffs are real, and we better gobble things up.
Okay, cool. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of the entire show, ladies and gentlemen, and that's where we get to go over some really interesting videos that have come from the internet.
James, this is my favorite video, and the title she put on there, just leave the computer alone. It doesn't work, just leave it. How do you trap somebody financially without them realizing? And this girl nailed it.
Okay, you're gonna wanna hear this because I just asked ChatGPT if I wanted to keep somebody broke forever while making them think they were doing everything right.
Look at
what system
Terminator
would
is
I
the
put
one
them
that
in?
played
How
her.
do you trap somebody financially without them even realizing it? First thing it said was force them into a system where they trade time for money. Teach them that a good job is the only way to succeed and never teach them how to own assets that pay them. Number two, condition them to believe that working harder equals more money. Make sure they never question why their boss makes 10 times more than they do while working the same hours or less. Number three, give them easy access to credit but never financial education. Let them afford luxury on payments so that they feel wealthy while actually being trapped in debt. Number four, keep salaries just behind inflation. This way they never feel poor enough to revolt, but never wealthy enough to escape. Number five, convince them that investing is risky, but working until 65 is safe. The wealthy get there by owning businesses and investing and building their wealth through real estate. But we'll teach you just to work hard and save. Number six, make them pay taxes on everything they earn, but never teach them how they can pay less tax on things that they own. Because we know that rich people, they shelter wealth. Employees get taxed the hardest. Number seven, call people who break free from this cycle lucky so that nobody else ever tries and the cycle continues. ChatGPT says it's not an accident that you weren't taught about money. You were taught everything they want you to know. Because the system was actually never broken. It was built this way.
Wow, you were taught everything you need to know for the system to operate as it is. I love everything she says there. And I love the one thing she said about tax. When have you ever been taught how to pay less in taxes or pay your fair share?
I remember it was never worry 32nd.
Yeah. W-2 income earners are the ones that have the least opportunity to save on taxes. They get screwed. And what does every education platform out there teach people to do? Get a job, work harder, do the hustle, put in the hours, retire at age 60 or 65, sail off into the sunset. Oh, don't forget your 401k contribution. She nailed it.
So here's what I think about this particular video. Granted, we are not taught in school financial education, but that doesn't mean that we can't take the responsibility on ourselves to learn financial education. And to this day, the number one path to wealth is still getting a traditional education. By far and large, it is the number one most successful path. But that does not mean that you cannot purchase another business while you are in your working years, so that if you run the business sideways, you can still recover from your 9 to 5. So while I agree with everything that she's saying and that you have to live within your means, we also have to take responsibility in order to educate ourselves, because if you are going to succeed in the system, you have to be able to learn to be successful for yourself. I have a love-hate relationship with this guy right here.
Where's the love?
I don't know, man.
You don't like him.
He's insurance. I understand sometimes he's got to do what he has. He has to say what he has to say. He has to, speak his mind.
Well, he says we need a market crash. Let's roll tape.
All right.
A market crash doesn't take place is what? What is the only way a market crash doesn't take place?
They pump more money and they lower rates again.
Okay.
I don't like him either. He beat me in push-ups.
If they lower rates, inflation goes
In
down.
rock, paper, scissors.
More money, value dollar goes down. If they keep pumping more money, nobody's learning how to compete in the marketplace. If they don't allow some of these too big to fail companies to go out of business, they're delaying the issue for your kids to go through it. But we're gonna eventually have to go through it. Yeah. So my ideal situation is for us to say, let's just go through it right now.
Let's get it off.
Let's get this thing, and it's gonna be 2, 3, 4 years. Let's go through this right now. Get everybody back in America used to 8% interest rates. So that's gonna bring the value of these things down. Then we're normal.
You don't like him because he likes Trump.
I hate the fact when he speaks a point, and I agree with everything he says. Do I want to go through a recession? Absolutely not. No. I know that there's going to be a lot of blood in the streets. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to feel an economic pinch. I'm going to be one of them. But I also understand that if I'm going to provide a better society, a better financial situation for the people of my last name, you kind of got to go through the tough times right now and then build it up so that you are financially educated and situated so that you're going to be able to prosper for years to come.
I don't disagree with any of it. I don't want to go through it like you, but the obstacle is the way.
There we go. Okay, there we go. Anything else you want to say? Okay, cool. All right, let's go to this one right here.
It is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer.
How do you not love this guy? Like that accent, he's so precise in what he's saying. He's spot on. Like just read the book, Secrets of the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
It's what he's talking. The Federal Reserve, the central banking system, is the root of all of this mess.
Okay. So when you look at something like this, number one, you're right. When you have an accent that is that strong, you can speak that concisely, how could you not believe in what he's saying? But here's what we also have to consider. We're taught how to develop businesses in real estate. We're taught how to build dry cleaners, be auto shop people. We're never taught to learn how to be an actual bank for ourselves and lend on other people's deals and learn how to grow fiscally and actually say, hey, look, I can actually be the person that third part of the real estate triangle, which is the finance. There's a labor, there's the person who is finding and selling the deal, but what about the person who finances a lot of that? And that's what we could do. You could be the person who helps somebody else purchase a business, and you could be completely hands-off. Do you know how much time freedom that actually helps open up for you and your family in perpetuity? So that's why it's important to learn how to become your own bank. And if you want to learn how to do that, you can contact C or me and get started right away. And thank you everybody for watching the premiere episode of On the Contrary, where we go through all of the business news, views, and perspectives so that you can make your own opinions. My name is St. James. This is Chris Naugle.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And also, don't forget to comment below because we will use your comments for the next episode. We'll see you then.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you watch this video as well? Oh, can you put that over there? It'll be good.
Right over my face.
No, definitely over his face. Did you click it yet? What are you still doing here? Click the video.